Yeah, I'm just doing a little audio, commenting on. I received a lot of emails from my website, and also websites that cover wrestling, saying that the match with Samoa Joe was, they liked the match and it was one of the best on the card. And so I thought the match went pretty good. There's a few things that I wish I could have changed, but for the most part, I thought, worked my ass off, and it could have been better, but I did what I could do, and but back to Triple H, that's what pisses me off is like he sent a paper, I think it was like in Connecticut, whatever bullshit newspaper up in that part of the country. So he blamed me, and it's like, that's the problem, Triple H don't understand it. It takes two people to have a good match, and it takes two people to have a bad match. And that piece of shit blamed it all on me, but that was the whole deal. They buried everybody from WCW, including me, including Goldberg, Kevin Nash. It was like everybody from WCW they buried. But for him to go on their, newspaper and say it was me, pissed me off, And I made this comment before. If he wasn't, banging the boss's daughter, he wouldn't have a fucking job. For him to, to say that I was a bad wrestler, the way the internet is now and the way you can get information, check him out, what he did in high school. I mean, he wasn't even an athlete, Three of the biggest pussies that ever win a world title was Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Ric Flair, and all the same kind of people. None of them were athletes. None of them were tough, but they all were backstabbed to get, where they were at. Or Triple H is the Kevin Federline of professional sports. He's like, he's the male version of those whores that go to Hollywood and fuck their way to the top. But he did the male version, so fuck him.
It all started with me in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where I first got to meet Scott Steiner.
And there's been
very, very few times in my life where I've ever been intimidated at the idea of meeting a professional wrestler. This was one of those times. When I first started in 96 and I walked up to Ultimate Warrior and I extended my hand and said, "Hi, I'm Kevin Kelly." And he shook my hand and kind of went back to lacing his boots. That was one. And then probably the first time I met Hulk Hogan, I was kind of awestruck. Couldn't have been nicer. But I was legit concerned, what kind of guy was Scott Steiner, and would he even, if I walked up to him, was he so out of his mind that he might take a swing at me? I had no idea. As it was, we sat down, and he kind of knew who I was, which broke the ice a little bit. And we sat down and we talked about all kinds of different things: college football, wrestling, business outside of wrestling, all kinds of stuff for probably half an hour. So, crisis averted, potential crisis averted. So from there, I'm watching how all of this unfolds. Now, at the time, I really didn't, before this, I didn't have a dog in the fight. I could care less about Triple H, and I was afraid of Scott Steiner and didn't really, know whether he was any good or not. I remember his matches from WCW, but I'm like, okay, he did all right. He's kind of a gimmick. Let's see how he does. 20-foot ring, getting older, maybe starting to break down a little bit. Boy, but after this conversation, I was really rooting for him. And this was the reason why the match was so bad and why the rivalry stinks. And it goes down in history as one of the most embarrassing moments ever in the WWE is because of Triple H. Because of your boy. Because he sandbagged, and because he anybody who's good in the ring can make anybody look good. Any limitations that you have. You mentioned Ric Flair. He had to go from territory to territory, and he had to carry stiffs 60 minutes. And he did that every single night. Now, sometimes he got to work with good guys, but sometimes he didn't. How do you think he carried Sting and Nikita and Luger to all those matches in WCW? Because he was great. He worked around their shortcomings and made matches great. Well, Triple H went in there intentionally to sabotage Scott Steiner. And that's the reason why the match was bad. And that's the reason why I never have any respect for Triple H. For that and for, like we had covered earlier on, the way he said he was too good to lose to either Kane or Rob Van Dam. Screw that guy. I don't care if he's your favorite.
Okay. You're the guest.
The match
You're the
itself.
guest. I'm taking the high road.
Oh,
You're the guest.
Give it up. The match itself, iconic though, right? Suplex after suplex after suplex after suplex after suplex. And wait, another suplex.
This one of the strangest matches ever.
Crowd turns, Hunter stumbling around, sledgehammer, just really bizarre across the board.
Don't know the reasons. I again wasn't there for how it was to all be executed, but I doubt it was laid out on paper like that. I doubt those two guys went in and said, "Hey, let's think out the joint tonight." Okay.
I was going to ask another Steiner question, but I didn't feel like opening up that fucking can of worms. So
No, I'm good.
I'm not. So go ahead.
Well,
Next.
listen. You can't ignore the facts. He sandbagged. He got away with it.
And it's amazing Steiner's not even on Mania. after
That's
all the
how
hype.
big of a sandbag was. Now, you think about it in terms. Let's put it in terms of like my favorite television show, Big Brother. He got Scott Steiner voted out of the house quickly by completely sandbagging him.
Because Scott Steiner would have been a dick in the house. That's why.
Well, no, but he turned everybody against him quickly, and he never gave him a chance, and could have worked with him to help everyone make more money instead of, no, all the focus has to be on me. These guys just need to step up. Somebody show me the definition of what it means to step up, because there isn't one. It's up to you to decide what that means. I'm stepping up right now. Well, not according to me. Well, who's the decision maker? Well, perception is reality, pal. Here's an example of some double talk that you'll only hear in the developmental system of the WWE now. Hey, how was my match? Well, it was good. There were some things that you could have done, but you did some good things, and there were things that I liked. There were some different things in there. You could have taken your time. You could have gone a little faster, but I think everything was good overall. Again, you got to make sure that when you're there, you do it when the time is right. You know what I mean? Everything is great. We don't know what the future holds. Got to take one day at a time, but man, you're doing good. You're doing great. I'm not really sure. It may not work out, but you may have to go in a different direction. And you wonder why guys go crazy in the developmental system. That's it right there. And Triple H is in charge of it. And the same guy that sandbagged Scott Steiner is in charge of everything. That's the guy that's running the company. That to me speaks to the character, the core of the person. But what do I know?
Man, you were just beating Scott Santa Claus tonight, just over and
I can't believe
over.
you're defending Scott Steiner so much. Jesus.
No, it's not Scott Steiner.
What are you, like
I'm
the Oakland
criticizing-
Raiders reclamation projects?
It wouldn't have mattered. We could have rolled Chief Jay Strongbow down to the ring in a wheelchair. And if Triple H was good, he would have known how to get something out of him. But instead, he would have taken Chief Jay in the ring, and he would have embarrassed him and humiliated him and make it look like, well, he's no good. But then deflects all the blame. It's not me, it's him. It's this guy in the wheelchair. Well, no shit. Of course we know Scott Steiner has a bad wheel. No kidding. We got it. We know he has a bulky back. We know he's too muscular for his frame. We understand all that. Work around it. How good are you? The old story in wrestling is you can take a broomstick and throw it in there with a veteran, and he's going to get a match out of the broomstick, right? Where's Triple H's broomstick moment? Where is that? He's always had somebody that was equal to or better than him. And when he's had to pull good matches out of not so good guys, if he doesn't like them, he ain't going to give him a good match. But he's going to be able to deflect the blame.
Scott Steiner didn't get over in the WWE as they had hoped that he would.
To be honest, I think he was the scapegoat in that he got brought in and was put with Hunter right away. And Hunter was just either back from one leg injury or pulled his groin. 'Cause that was when he was all taped up wearing the... He wore like the longer bicycle shorts, so I think Hunter even jokingly called his support hose because he had pulled his groin or something. So he was very immobile for Hunter. And Scotty had the bad foot at the time that was bothering him more, so Scotty was kind of immobile. And their matches were really clumsy because of it. And guess where the blame got put? So I think Scotty took the brunt of that, in that, you know, he was right in there. It's like, didn't have a great match with Hunter, therefore it's all Scotty's fault. And we really can't do much with Scotty. Despite the fact that he had some, you know, pretty good matches with Jericho after that, and I had a lot of matches with him after that that were pretty good. You had to work around a few of the limitations that Scotty had because, you know, he wasn't as mobile as I was. So I could compensate and do all the mobility, where unfortunately at the time Hunter was also fighting a leg or a groin issue and wasn't very mobile, so it didn't go well. So I think he sort of got, his first program came in at the top, it didn't go the way they wanted, and they pulled the plug. So I think he really got scapegoated in that respect. I remember one time, who was the agent? Might have been Jack again. I was on the house show with him. It was shortly after that. And it was funny because I remember telling this story to the boys because Jay and I, Christian, used to compare the, you know, you think it's bad, I was buried doing this. No, you think that was bad, I had something worse happen stories. And it was the one that was working with Scotty, and I think Jack Lanzik more, and he says, yeah, you know, the office has given up completely on this guy. You know, just go out there and get whatever the hell you can out of him. If you can only get 2 or 3 minutes out of him, don't worry about it. Just get whatever you can. The office has given up on him. And if you could take his finish, we'd really appreciate it. I'm just sitting there going, so you've completely washed your hands of this guy. You think he's horrible. And I'm putting him over. Thanks. And then we went out and had a really good match, and we did, you know, 10 or 12 minutes or whatever, and it was easy to work with, and Scotty was fine. But I think after that one match with Hunter that didn't go well, I think there was the one point where they actually fell down doing a move that they just can't do anything with him and gave up. And so, and once they've decided you don't have it anymore, it doesn't matter how good you are, they've pulled the plug.
Big Papa Pump hasn't said anything about your release from the WWE. I don't know if it was released or the end of your contract happened and it just, you guys didn't come to terms. What happened actually?
It was, I really didn't want to be there anymore. And, it was one of the situations, it was just horrible, man. The TV was horrible. It's even worse now. You can't even watch now, but it was
dude, I remember when I was with my former co-host Sir Adam in Madison Square Garden when you debuted for the WWE. And it was a couple months after you were on our show last, and we were like really, hoping that it would be a huge debut. And the place went insane when you came out.
The place went, crazy. And I talked to Howard Finkel afterward. And I've mentioned this before. He said that was one of the biggest pops he's ever seen. He said I was with Bruno, superstar Billy Graham. He says that ranks up with those guys. And Shane McMahon came up to me the next day, man. He said, how did it feel like? I said, it was great, but that means you don't have that much work to do to get, I'm already over, you know what I mean? And they like they did with everybody else from WCW, they shit on me,
Do you think you were kind of... Go ahead, sorry.
He did with me, he did with Goldberg, he did with Nash, and Nash was supposed to be Triple H's best friend, and look how they treated him, so... I don't take it personal, but, business is business. If you want to, Vince wanted to own the world, well, now he owns the whole world, and the rest of the world is, and not better off for it. They never attracted the WCW audience, and the ratings are worse than they had in Monday Night Wars, so you buy a company and bury everybody that was in it, so,
Junior
made their own bed,
Yeah. Do you think they purposely went out to bury the WCW mainstay stars just to prove a point? I mean, was that why?
Without a doubt, I actually went out, like after my Madison Square Garden debut, and maybe a week or so after that, one of the cameramen comes up to me, brings me one of his newspaper article for one of his local newspaper. He had an article, saying, hope WWE doesn't bury me the same way he has done, the first guys that came through there, and like he says, I hope it don't happen to you, I said, well, we'll see, but
Right.
it ended up being true,
I mean, I just couldn't believe that they would take something that, like, you had the personality in WCW that was almost on the cusp of becoming popular just by default, like almost as Steve Austin was in WWE. And I can't believe that he would have such a vengeance against WCW guys to not want to make money out of you. He kind of put his thumb on you by even putting you in a Triple H match right when you got there. Like, they didn't even make you wrestle anyone else. You were just in for the world title, and where do you go for there?
My first match on TV was a pay-per-view.
It's unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. And, it was ridiculous. I wasn't even allowed to do my own interviews, They would have me, they would write out interviews for me, and they'd make me practice in the back. I said, man, I can't do this, This stuff is horrible, So they let me change it a little bit, but still, I wonder why they're not drawing any money. They're trying to make, characters when characters are supposed to make themselves, and they got no characters that even know what their gimmick's about, or believe what their gimmick is, or, they're trying to make people, and it ain't working because they haven't worked. They haven't worked in front of a crowd. They're, taking guys out of OVW and trying to make them stars, and it's not going to happen.
Right. What was it like to deal with Triple H when you first got there? Was he cool to deal with, or was he like a nightmare?
No, he wouldn't have been a nightmare. Trust me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like Flair. They're nice to your face, but who knows what goes on behind closed doors? So
yeah, you kind of you've had a history with Flair, and those guys were tight. So I didn't, I kind of put two and two together that it was kind of destined to fail from the beginning. But
right.
But even when you were with Test, you got to pop out of the crowd anyway.
Right. Well, Vince actually went up to Test, and he said, "We're going to make you the greatest tag team of all time." And we still laugh about that, because it was such a joke,
Right.
I mean, I wish he would have said it to me, because but he never did,
Because he was a scaredy, because you threw him against the wall 10 years ago, right?
So I don't know. It was, but what can you do? It's his company, he can run it the way he wants.
Right. And you were probably, I don't want to ask you how much you're probably making pretty good money at the time, right? When you were there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He paid. The whole thing was is they wanted to bring me in a lot earlier than they did. They had called my lawyer up and wanted me to come in right at WrestleMania to tag team with Steve Austin against Kevin Nash and Scott Hall.
Really?
Well, yeah, and that's what. But they wanted me to make a decision within 24 hours, and the money wasn't where I wanted.
Right.
I'm not going to pay the number, or I'm not coming. So that kind of fell through, and then they ended up paying me actually more than what I was asking for back in WrestleMania time. So
that's bizarre. They paid you a lot of money just to throw you in with Test.
Right. So who's dumb? I'm going to sit home and collect money, or if he wants to pay me to bury me, but he has the money, so he did it.